Hey, what's up, everybody? It is the breakdown yet once again off of a long, very, very long hiatus. We've been missing for like what, 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, I've been missing for a minute.
Who can we blame? Someone got to be the fall guy for this.
None other than Rev.
Was-
None other than.
Like you.
Oh my lord.
Oh man, I shouldn't have given you all a choice. I should have just started pointing fingers to your boxes wherever you may be on your screens. All right, so the last time out, we had a really great discussion with Eman via Facebook Live, via YouTube Live, and we got into something that I thought was very crucial, in particularly, as we talk about this show, as we talk about CHH and the various artists and the culture and all that good stuff. Uh, and one of the things that came up in that discussion, and we went a bit deeper with it there, and I just want to take it a bit further in this conversation, was the state of CHH. Well, we talked about it locally here in the Bahamas. But personally, I am of the view that the state of CHH locally here in the Bahamas is just probably a reflection of what's going on with the state of CHH globally. I can be wrong, I can be right, I am just of that view. So tonight is not really formal, like how we would have questions and we go through line items and make sure, we get through that. But we just want to talk about the state of CHH all around the world, worldwide. And I just want to get you guys' thoughts on it. And I just want to chime in the conversation. Let's see if we could have an honest conversation and pinpoint exactly what in the world is going on in Christian hip hop.
Okay, well, I guess we could start it off by saying, when you say that you feel like it's a reflection of what's happening globally, I think you need to explain that. That lighting is fire, by the way, though, Rev. I mean,
It's a major improvement from my last time out. And here's why I say that, right? And what I mean by a reflection, I don't mean 100% of what's happening in the U.S. and in different parts of the world, where CHH exists is exactly what's happening here, right? But what I mean by that is one of the things I think we might have touched on a few episodes ago. We kind of touched on it, but we didn't go there all the way. Was the fact that right now, even though you got people still making music, you got people still dropping projects, you got things happening here and there. It just doesn't seem to be the same, the same fire, the same fervence, the same type of energy that we had, let's say about 10 years ago, right? And I don't think, even though I think personally the music has gotten way better, the reach has gotten way wider, the audience is growing, and then too, that's really because of the platforms that we have in social media. Because if you want to take the social media effect, then everything in the world has gotten wider reach because of social media, right? So let's minus the social media out of it, and let's look at how influential is the CHH community actually in today's world and in today's church, right? And that's one of the things that I think has kind of fallen off. And I think, just like we have here in the Bahamas, I think that there needs to be a resurgence. I think that there needs to be some sort of a revival, if we must use that term. And I think that there has to be like just a breath of fresh air in when we talk about the context, when we talk about the content, when we talk about just the energy, and that's just my thoughts on it. And this is a very general statement, by the way, but we could go a little bit into why do we believe that is the state currently.
I think, well, I don't think you have enough time in this episode because it's like 40 million different things running through my head just off of that alone. But I think one of the first things to use as a disclaimer for any of our opinions that we may say, all of us are, well, I don't know Christina that well, so I wouldn't say, I wouldn't try to do that and just shadow cast your age out there. But I would say all of us are at an age now where life is kind of starting to be life. You know, responsibilities are a little higher for all of us. So the timing and the way where all of us are more invested in CHH as opposed to years ago, in
You are right.
itself would be different. You know, it would
Yeah.
be a little more different. So just before we get into the greater discussion, when we talk
Yeah.
about impact and what we see from CHH, and you know, Sleep even said that he feels like he's dated, you know, and he feels like I keep up, and I'm like I don't know, you know, I feel like, and using that as my starting point into the conversation, I remember websites like New H2O. I used to
Yes.
check that like
Yep.
daily. I
Yes.
True.
used to check Robzilla daily. I used to check.
Yeah.
Um,
Shanghai.
Say it again. Yeah, Jam the
Shanghai.
Hype. There's
Mm-hmm.
another
the
one
grand
too.
type.
There was another one. I think it had something to do
The
with light.
couple.
But I used to check them daily, and I used to
Mm-hmm.
like they used to like people just used to put up mixtapes a lot,
Yeah.
and I just used to
Yeah.
download them, and that's why I got like Swoop. That's why I got, you know, even though he's no longer CHH artist, but I don't know if you remember Jazz IL and
Yeah.
those
Oh
dudes.
Lord.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
there was different people like that who I got onto through those websites, and then just other people. Black Knight, like these names you don't even hear no more. But
His name
Wow.
is Brandon P now.
yeah, huh?
His name is Brandon P now. He's really big.
All
Brandon
right,
P.
all right,
Yeah.
cool. Glad to hear that. But I mean, you know, so from
Mm-hmm.
my stance, I think I will. So if anyone has any sort of rebuttal to say, well, I'm not aware of certain things, I'm admitting I ain't as on it as I used to be. Now that being said, according to what you said, Shako, going off what you said, what I do think is dope that we have a bigger platform of CHH now. It is more mainstream than it ever was. So even though I could say I'm not on game like I used to, I don't have to go to New HCO to know that KB put out a new album. You know, I don't have to go to New HCO to know Lecrae's new project because
That's it.
they're doing a better marketing. You know, so we have these bigger labels, and of course, Reach is Reach. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and they're the juggernaut of the industry, and you know they have the marketing, but then you also have like NF. You know, he's all over
Iman
YouTube.
favorite.
Yeah, Iman's favorite, but you know he's all over YouTube, so you can see when he does new stuff. Our boy Aha Gazelle, you know he has a new project out. You know, so
It's
there's
a
a lot.
hot.
Yeah, so there's a lot more. I guess it's interesting how there's a lot more, I guess, opportunity, but less. I don't want to say content, but it just seems to be, I guess, if we do say a comparison, in my opinion, I feel like CHH currently is in a state of repair. In my opinion,
State of what? Say again.
repair. Like its growth. It had this explosion like the last 5 years or so. Like we just had a lot of growth in the industry, and then it kind of collapsed in on itself. I feel because like a lot of names we don't really hear about anymore. Like Lamb Mode, you really don't. You know, Chris
Yeah, that's
Don
what I was
Gray
gonna
putting
touch
out
on for my point. Yeah.
Chris Don Gray putting out stuff, but it's still not like you don't hear about it like that. Like you told me, and I was like, what? Like how could you be
Yeah.
putting out something I don't even hear about it? Swoop is our boy, but you know, Swoop ain't, you know, he have something coming out here and there, but it's still not like it just seems to be like there was a collapse at some point. And it
Yeah.
seems like the only people who was able to hold on and stay afloat was Reach. Bizzle out there doing his thing, but even that is kind of like, it seems like he's almost, no offense to him and his label, it's like, I feel like they're still in the same place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In terms of relevancy, like it's like
Yeah.
almost like an underground feel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like they haven't made it to like that place where like when you put out an album, everybody knows okay, Bizzle has a new project or something out. But again, that just might be me being outdated. But not to take too much more time. That's my first input. So some of
Yeah.
this,
I wanted to actually touch on like one of the points you made about the label stuff, right? Like we see, um, for instance, that you remember not cross movement, collision records,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And I remember I loved that movement. I wanted to be signed to them at one point. For me, it was like the best fit or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just does not exist no more. It doesn't
Yeah.
exist.
It's crazy.
So many of them have. I don't know what the circumstances, whether it's dropped from the label, whether the label is no longer existing. Obviously, Swoop and Kriston and Alex Faith and
Mm-hmm.
Dave Murray, these guys were really like we saw so much promise in them, and then that's no
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
When I look at Lamp Mode, um, I try to like when I see artists on Spotify, I try to like look at the labels and stuff, and I see it seems to me, I don't know what the case is for sure, but it seems to me that ESO is the only artist on that label now.
I think so.
Um, Humble
Yeah.
Beast, who knows? They sell coffee. To my record, like as much as I know, they sell coffee now, right?
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you had Jackie Hill
Jackie Hill
Perry
Perry.
on there at one point. I mean, the project was
For
really good.
propaganda.
Exactly, propaganda.
Right.
Um,
And I think what might have happened just from outside looking in,
mm,
maybe there was such a focus on the ministry aspect that a lot of these business aspect from the industry aspect didn't survive, right? Like they didn't have enough of what they needed from a business component. Because I remember even early in CHH, there was a lot of emphasis on like oh, it's about the gospel, it's about the gospel, and it was almost like anything that was industry was almost frowned upon. But the reality was they were in the
Yeah.
industry. It was like they didn't find that balance in that marriage, and you see so many great artists who like even like you follow these guys on Instagram, and you sometimes you can see some of these guys have day jobs. Like, some of these
Yeah.
guys working part time and real jobs. No one wants to see their favorite artist doing that when the music is legitimately better than these guys that are charting in mainstream. Like a lot of these artists in CHH make considerably better music than and I'll call names like people like the baby and no, I'll say all that. But people, people in the mainstream who winning Grammys and stuff, like a lot of
yeah.
CHH rappers are way better, like by
Yeah.
far.
For sure. For
But
sure.
maybe the industry and business aspect wasn't up to par, and so you couldn't see like the fruition of these things. I hate to see Kriston have a bad rollout. I hate to see uh, uh, these really good artists have bad rollouts where, like you say, you don't even know. Sometimes they have projects come out. Sometimes I go and look out of curiosity, and like a project came out 4 months ago, and it's like,
Yeah.
and a lot of times these are independent projects, literally from the artists themselves, and it's like, come on, you're telling me all these great CHH artists, and there's not one or two labels to cultivate and all of this and doing business,
Or like at least a promotion, right? Because
right?
I
It's
think,
like,
I mean, when we get into controversies, I think it was Sizzle who had made some comments about that with within the community, and I
mhm,
forgot which artist it was who talked about it. I don't know if it's KB or Bizzle, but someone I remember Sizzle had said, "Yo, like I put out an album and like I got like nobody mentioned it, like no other artist."
mhm.
And it was like a situation, and he was feeling, and I forgot like the whole conversation. I guess I should have went back and found that whole
Yeah.
controversy for this discussion. But even the artists are making that point, so that goes to show us. So going along with back to what Shaq said, we do seem to have that problem, where it does seem to be a reflection of what happened here. But I think another aspect that we have to think about is the shift that happened that did seem to cause a lot of ripples throughout the industry. The
Mm-hmm.
whole "I'm not a CHH rapper" thing. I think, and I don't want to. I hate to be the person who would suggest this, but I just thinking off of what you said, Sleepy.
Mhm.
When you had, and I actually think I'm not too far off with saying this because I'm sure I heard KB say something similar. I'm not saying he said what I'm about to say,
Mhm.
but he said something similar, right? When CHH was hitting its peak, in terms of popularity, and you had all these young artists coming out. You had producers were getting signed, right? You had all this momentum, and then that shift came, and it was like, no, 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 I don't want to be a Christian rapper. I want to be a rapper who's Christian. And it kind of took, I feel like it took it. It's almost like you on a train track and it takes a sharp left, right? And it just, because of that sharp left, some of the train fell off, or a lot of the train ended up falling off. Because where you were able to go with that whole shift in artistry, other people weren't able to go for many different reasons, theological reasons, convictions, and then, like you said, money. Like, I don't have the money to go out and get me a Gavi or any sort of other person. And even, ironically, Lecrae ended up going to a major label to kind of help with that sort of situation, right? So the artists who were coming up, and I think Snoop even did a song on this, right? Crying a Lambo. They say money can't buy happiness, but I wouldn't mind crying in a Lambo. And basically in that song, he talked about how, he went on the road to do a show and ended up eating in the homeless shelter one night. Like, that's how serious it was. So there seems to be, like, I think you have the two sides of that. So yes, we have the problem of business not being done properly, and I think KB has a great conversation on that, on how to solve that problem within the industry. But also we have this problem with, did you pull too hard to where you literally pulled the fan base with you so far to where you left such a vacuum that no one was able to go with you, So I give Christina some talking time. I'll have me running out there, man.
No. Speak as Yahweh speaks. To you, I believe that we have lost the focus of ministry. I mean, in terms of the Lord had taught me that ministry is birthed out of fellowship. I believe that a hub wasn't made in terms of keeping everybody together, not physically but spiritually. We could have that love and that natural desire to spread the gospel, not only focusing on your ministry, but you doing as Paul did. Paul sent the letters to the Ephesians and the Galatians and the Colossians. And when you read those scriptures, it's as if he is right there talking with them in the synagogue. Right. It's like, I would love to be here with you. I hope you're doing this. I hope you're doing that. I taught on, and I know that you have a weakness on that. So, like, he intimately knew them. And I feel like, but we don't intimately know each other. And I know, we live in different cities and countries and nations. But that is the place where we have to be, because, like you said, when artists and producers were getting signed, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life was activated. And they lost the sight of the call. And then they wanted to take Christ out of their so-called label. I don't want to be a Christian rapper anymore because of what the industry limited them to do. But yeah, I believe that the hub is missing. And what's happening to the CHH community is essentially happening in the church. So the church is the root of the CHH community. That's where it's birthed out of. So as the roots change, or as the tree gets uprooted, there's a brand new tree of life being able to be planted and grow. But it's growing pains, because a lot of the artists that we know, they're either on the right track or they're totally off, or like there's no cohesion. And then I don't think I normally keep track of the unknowns. I love the unknowns, the indies, and there are a lot of different flavors out there. And also, they're actually paving paths that, they're just so different. I just can't describe it. But yeah, that hub of fellowship is definitely missing. Definitely missing.
I think, definitely with that, one thing I always thought, like, when you look at the rap industry and you see certain people who beef and you like, well, y'all would have been solid on a song together. And you would think the same thing about CHH and be like, well, why can't y'all, like, if y'all name all under, like, why? And correct me if I'm wrong, but why we never get until KB and Bizzle did that song recently? Why that never happened? Like
Boy, that was a long time for real. It took them to do a song.
yeah,
Mhm.
like why was there no ever like a reach in a Bizzle? Like I mean, Swoop did CMT but I
Hmm.
mean like they had two versions of that. I was like, y'all can have like seven versions of that. Like there's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many. Like I feel like y'all should have made sure to get as much people as possible on them tracks, bro.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
everyone should have
Yeah.
had a verse somewhere in that whole thing, and that could have been a movement. And like you said, I probably could have created that hub, that brotherhood. Like yo, we all in this together.
But yeah, I definitely agree with you guys. I think there needs to be more unity, but I just even want to go back to that point where we talk talk about the industry side of it, and I think that that is so valid. And being someone, who is an artist, and then also with the God Squad stuff, I've seen both sides of it on a smaller scale.
Mhm.
Definitely not on a level of the labels that we've talked about, but for an artist or for a ministry, or just for a business in general, I think that this is something that we have to give way more attention to. And I remember even before Manifest died, God bless his soul. I
Hmm.
remember, I think the last conference he had, this was like the major point of what they were talking about, just the business side of it here. And I think that it isn't a knock so much. So I think it's a 50-50 thing, right? I think that, us as artists, and not just artists, but anybody who plays a part, because there's more moving pieces than just the artists themselves, right?
Mhm.
I think that we have to be more prudent in the business of music. And not just that, I think too, the church, which is really our main platform, has
Yeah.
now give way to that as well too. Because I could tell you from both ends of the spectrum, right? I've
Hmm.
spoken, I've did artistry now from I was 16 straight up. Now people don't call me no more. I guess they don't really want to hear my music like that, right? But the majority of places I go now, I go to speak, right? And to tell you the truth, how I'm treated as a speaker, how I'm paid as a speaker, how I'm treated as an artist, and how I'm paid as an art, or really not paid most of the times, right?
Mhm.
It's literally night and day, right? Same person, uh, same spring of talent, but it's just different respects on the gifting. And I feel that we gotta start doing better than that. When it comes to just respecting our artists on the whole, but it's really in particular CHH, because we won't really do it to the psalmists. We won't do it to the musicians. As a matter of fact, the musicians don't come until they get paid.
Getting a bag.
Yeah, and literally, I've watched services where these dudes will not leave until you give them their check or their envelope. At the end of the service. So what am I trying to say? That there has to be more respect, in the industry, from both sides. From the majority of our platforms, which is the church, and then also from the actual artists themselves. We have to respect ourselves to that point. And
Yeah.
it's sad, and it's like we kind of get caught in the crossfire of it, because it doesn't happen in other aspects and other elements of ministry. But you want to have a youth concert, or you want to have a fundraiser concert, or whatever you want to do, let's call up all the CHH artists, tell them we doing a fundraiser. They gonna come through and do it for free, right? Even if it's not a fundraiser and we're quote unquote selling tickets, but we can't give them any of the ticket money unless you are like someone who's really over the top in your main act. Then we could fly in the main acts, we could pay the main acts, we could feed the main acts. But in terms of
Not the
those
older
other guys, those in between
Stepping
guys,
on
those
guns now.
upcoming guys, we pay them with exposure.
right?
You
So
stepping on wrong.
yeah,
Wow.
it's really sad. And
Yeah.
as a personally, myself, when I got in the position of not just being invited to concerts but having to put things together, I in as much opportunities as I can, I put in and I budgeted to make sure that there were artists, they were paid. Same thing with my youth group. And believe it or not, people may not notice, but sometimes when you came to something and I invited you to it, and you were paid, sometimes I was paying them, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't necessarily the ministry. I was paying them because I just didn't want me being a CHH artist and knowing how that feels. I didn't want the ministry to have that reflected on them to say, here comes another artist. We're going to use their talent and their gift, but then don't give them something. So
Yeah,
it's sad, is extremely sad, but it's the reality, and it's something that has to be addressed. And I think that goes to the next point. If that is addressed in community and that is a collective stance, and that's not the end all be all, don't get me wrong, it's just a very small problem in the whole situation of what's happening, right? But if that is addressed, I and it's addressed in the community, I think it sticks better. Number one, and then number two, maybe, and this is just a theory that I have, maybe the whole thing of persons wanting to go mainstream and wanting to do this and to do that would not happen if the artists get like more legitimate support. If you could legitimately eat and you could legitimately take care of your family from your artistry. And I'm not talking about any and everybody, right? People who've put in the work, people who've perfected their craft, are people who actually, take it serious. That's what I mean. I don't mean, young Cross who just came up yesterday.
yeah. Don't be talking about young cross like that.
I don't mean young Cross. Young Cross, you go pay your dues and put in the work. But I mean like dudes them who are really out here putting in the work. I feel like if there's more love, because hey, money is a way to show love. That's support, right? If there's just more love, more community, more appreciation, and just more gifting towards the community in general, I think you got less dudes leaving out and trying to find other ways and other avenues to get it done.
Yeah.
Because even with me, going beyond now being an artist, even with me being a minister, once again, there is a different level of respect there. But then sometimes too, you could still feel like there is a uh, uh, how do you put it? I don't want to say it the wrong way. You could feel like there's a cap sometimes that people would want to put on you, right? Especially me dealing with you. But then again, on the other hand, I'm an entrepreneur in my everyday life, and even though I work in ministry and whatever the case may be, I'm an entrepreneur, and I look at it as a life situation that hey, I gotta do as much as I love God, as much as I love ministry, much as I love music, as much as I love clothing. I gotta do what I gotta do to take care of myself and my family, and I can't put it in the hands of people who will not love, respect, and appreciate my gift. Right? So
But
that's
that's
a
a
lot
good
of
point.
corn mash, but rant over.
Yeah, as you was talking, I was thinking about like how much of it is the role, how much of even what we're seeing right now, um, and CHH is the responsibility and the role of the supporters, right? Because for me, I always say, like, MCK fans are the quietest fans in the world. Like, I know of people that like obviously support the music or whatever, but I mean it's like I'm a secret. It's like you a secret. It's like whereas with these other artists, these mainstream artists, you have kids standing in the rain to listen to these dudes rap gibberish into a mic. When you have CHH artists like Andy, CHH artists like Christian, really spitting with substance, high skill level, really good music, and we got to be scourging the internet to see if they drop something or not. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of it has to do with the responsibility of the fan base or the supporters or whatever you want to call them. I prefer to call supporters, people that support my music, supporters. I don't believe in the whole fan thing for me personally. But um how much of that is their responsibility? Because if they was really out, like you said, if they was buying the tickets, if they was buying the music, you don't even have to have no grand scheme, like if you putting out music and 600,000 people buying the music, you're gonna be okay. Like the music is gonna travel, other people are gonna hear about it, and the word of mouth factor is so big, particularly in CHH, because like I said, we don't have that platform that the other guys have, or the funding to like do the promotion that they have. So word of mouth is a big deal, especially in the context of we're supposed to be church, which is community, right? So it's like the concept of like church, and then there's like 1,700 churches in Nassau, around our corner alone. Um, you know, why is it that there's this huge disparity where it's like there's good artists in CHH, but like their supporters don't even speak of them as like you're a secret, and I feel like a lot of it is the responsibility of the supporters too. Like if you think someone is legit, you have to support them. You have to say, "Yo, this is legit," even at the very least. And it don't. It sometimes it doesn't require anything of you at all except to share something and say, "Yo, this is nice." I don't get it, and that's
Okay, is
something
that a CHH thing, or are we going into a can of worms that is a black business thing? Because
what.
I think it goes beyond artistry. Just as African Americans, for some people who may watch this, or just for persons of African descent. We say in our local vernacular, black people, right? Is that a thing where it's just we don't support and highlight each other's business and really shout it out from the mountaintops like we should? Because, for example, you're talking about kids standing in the rain for Nike. I mean, I'm saying Nike for mainstream artists, right? But it's the same thing in business, right? These people, your homeboy could work really hard, launch a brand. You may even support it, but really and truly, as simple as it is liking and sharing and just really helping to push whatever it is that he or she is doing. You just don't do, right? But the new Jordan's about to drop, and you are legitimately around the corner, standing in the rain, getting tickets, doing all of that stuff, etc., etc. So my whole thing is really and truly, I think in the context of CHH, it works, right? It fits that mold. But when we look at how we support each other in general, when it comes to just business ventures, and that's one of the reasons I love Christina, right? Because Christina is the supporter, like I knew her from like what 8-10 years back, right? But Christina was at every concert. She would buy everyone's CD. She had a page on YouTube, Lady Automatic. She would upload everybody's
I'm a
music.
Lady Automatic. I remember that joke.
Yeah, man.
That's
Right?
why I used to go to hear my music because I don't have my own stuff.
For real. Hey, a side note, right? The other day, I was looking for some of my music I couldn't find personally that I had. And I went on her page and I was like, oh shoot, I forgot I told her to take some of it down. I was like, if I only knew.
See,
I would have
she was in the spirit. You wasn't.
all the music. Oh man, so yeah, man.
Yeah, shout out to Christina and people like Christina. Be like Christina, okay?
Yeah, be like we should make that into a shirt. That's the
That's the
merch.
whole move. Be
Feel
like
like
Christina.
it's
But yeah, like seriously, like Xavier, we was talking about the role of the supporters in CHH, and like how obviously if they support, then it's gonna be fine for these artists. But if they don't support it, they keep it like a big secret. Then what's gonna happen? Like you have, but like some of these artists, they selling cologne. There's rap, like they don't have nothing to do with cologne, and you go and buy their cologne. But like I trying to tell you the music what I've been doing for 10 years, and there's no support. Like I don't even try to sell you no socks.
Oh my god.
I'm trying to sell you no.
MCKY, you could just at me, you know.
My lord.
No. I just said. I
think
was trying to sell you no t-shirts.
Just at me. I don't know why we gotta be talking subliminals. Just at me next time.
But it start with the CD. You guys support MCK CD. How you can support God's God? Like I personally do not get it. I don't get the concept of like
Yeah, that's true.
not supporting people who, and then they'll see you in public and it's like, oh, like it's weird to me. Support CHH artists. Like y'all say y'all about CHH. Support CHH artists. Like you know how much Lecrae albums I bought? They just have the strength of like like this my culture.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them albums wasn't good, but I bought them.
like legit, man, for real, y'all. I know it's made much better now because we have streaming. So persons are getting paid from YouTube views and Spotify plays and all of the things that would have been unpaid before. But before we would literally before what really used to break my heart was, let's say if I go and press like 300 CDs, right? And I would put it out there. I would go places and strangers would buy it. No problem. They would buy the CDs, they would buy the download cards, they would go get it on, on iTunes or whatever, right? But legitimately, my inner circle or maybe people who I knew, even if they were not necessarily my own boys, they would want the stuff for free. Right? So what am I trying to say is that, we just got to get to a point as a culture, beyond CHH, as a culture where, we can't just expect stuff for free. We have to support our own, and to me personally, if my buddy or my friend has a business, I rather, if Xavier's a chef, if he's selling chicken, parmesan, strudel, whatever, I don't know, some fancy name thing.
It's just got worse and worse.
$12.
Oh, when you say strudel.
I don't know, man. They
have chicken parmesan strudel, CPS.
Right.
Fancy plates with the little leaf on top, right? But I'm going to him and whatever. If it is $15, I'll pay $15. If I don't have it, then I'll come back to him another time, right? But I'm not gonna beat him down. Say, hey, bro, you's my boy. You can't give it to me for 10. No, man, just we gotta stop living like that, yo. It's been killing us as a culture for too long.
That's people in general. And then also, back to what Christina said before my internet started doing the chicken dance. When she said that, it's indicative of a problem that's in the church itself. That's Christian people on the whole. Like, there's been a few reasons as to why people feel like giving money to church or any sort of ministry is a standoffy type of thing, So unfortunately, I feel like CHH has that same problem. And I think I heard Shaq say before, people would go and pay to go see like Drake or someone, but you want me to come see? Like, I gotta pay to get into the Christian rappers concert? No way. Like, it's just a mindset, right? Like,
that's true.
Like,
and that comes from
it's Drake though, but like but
tying it so close to the church, man.
Yep.
Like it's okay. There's a Christian rapper, so therefore the gospel free. That beat wasn't free though.
It gotta be free, buddy.
Them beats wasn't free. You can't go in the studio and say, man, this
you should have used the free beats.
Should have used some free beats. It's plenty free beats. But yeah, like
and see the whole thing, and like you said, it's tied too close to the church. But then the even greater point is, you should be willing to, like, it's what Shaq just said. You should be willing to, like, why not pay?
Right.
Like, you ain't gonna pay. They ain't gonna charge you like Drake numbers. Like, they ain't gonna charge you $300 for a back row seat. But like that $20 ticket is that's too much to ask you.
That's a backward mentality for real, because it's like real literally. Oh, I know what they could do with that money. Like Drake is literally gonna go buy a race for Germany.
Yep.
He gonna go. You
and
gotta
tell
go
you
to
how
the strip club.
poor you are.
You gotta go to the strip club and make it rain
Yep.
with your money.
Yep.
But you skeptical about what I'm gonna do with your money. Like, man, I got
Yeah.
bills, man. I have some fees to pay. That's about it.
I want you to take my money and tell me how poor I am whilst you drive your Murcielago in my face in the music video.
It really is about the mentality, especially once again. Like it's the same analogy with rap. Like if this your boy, if this person that believe in the same thing that you believe in, something you believe in, is
Yeah.
the most important thing in the world. I mean, I have that same value system. At the very least, I want you to win. At the very least, like I want you to win. And it's exchange. I only paying $15 to get in. To see you do your thing. I'm not paying tithes to you. Like I'm giving you
Yeah,
it's exchange, you know what I'm saying? Like but it's like
taking
it's a
taking my
really
money to
backwards
go buy
mentality.
you're gonna go be one of them pastors who was be doing them things on TV. Crook.
As a crook, man.
But you see, that's how. But you know, and not to change the conversation in that direction, but just to make that point, you know, that is, you know, the problem with certain things. You know, when you have those people, you know, one thing that Christians will always need to understand is that when you say you are a Christian, you are automatically held to a different standard, like automatically. So I know people who would tell you, MCK, yes, I would rather give my money to Drake and watch him go do what I know he can do with it, because at least Drake never said, you know, he was anything else. You know, so they rather that than the Christian who say, yeah, he's a Christian, but then they see you at the strip club. They see you at the strip club throwing the money like that's way more offensive.
I rest assured, I ain't doing that money in no strip club.
Yeah, but they don't know. You know,
rest assured.
That's way more offensive to them than Drake doing
blew up excess.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's more offensive to them than Drake doing it, and there's been a few, you know.
Yeah, what you're saying.
You know, they feel like, anyway, that's a whole nother discussion that we should not get into. But yeah, they just.
They connected. They are connected. Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah.
That's true. But guys, listen, I think that this is a conversation that we could continually unpack time after time again, just because of how vast it is. And I think that a lot of the issues kind of crosses over into other areas, you know, into church in general, into, you know, the culture, as, you know, as just Black people on the whole. I think it goes so much different spectrum, but it narrows down and it finds its way in CHH, unfortunately. And we're not talking on a major level, you know, even though we started there, you know, it you see where what's happening in the majors, you know, then trickle down to the minors and vice versa, right? So I'm saying all that to say that it's so many issues, but I think that if we could sum it up, you know, it has to be better community, has to be, you know, just better support and appreciation. You know, there has to be a better business sense of artists, kind of just knowing their worth, knowing their value, standing their ground, you know, and there has to be better support coming from the church in general, right? And I hate to sum it up at that because I know it's so much more, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. And if we stay on this thing for any much longer, Xavier's going to fall asleep.
Why Xavier fall asleep?
I might, to be honest with you.
When you put it like that.
The recording is happening very, very late in the night.
Season finale coming up, by the way.
Yes. Season finale is going to be here in the next episode. So we thank you guys. Thank you for rocking with us all this time, man. God bless you. And we will continue to push the conversation on CHH and give you the breakdown right here on The Breakdown. Can't get no more cliche than that. Good night, people.